Welcome to Ladies of Another View on Beck TV. We are coming at you from Mott, North Dakota. We're actually inside the Bottoms Up restaurant and bar. I tell you what, this is where you can get fire-grilled steaks right here in Mott. They serve till like 10 o'clock in the evening, but we are joined with Kevin Carvel. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I understand you're a bit of a local historian right here. When I talk to anybody, they said, you've got to talk to Kevin when you're talking about Mott.
Well, I guess I like to pretend I am.
Well, I've heard better. I've heard otherwise. So tell us, how did Mott get started?
Well, we're on the Cannonball River, and the Cannonball River has flowed in that valley for 2 million years, but Native Americans lived here for probably 20,000 years, but none ever lived here. There wasn't any trees, wasn't any wood, no place to build shelters, so they would pass through hunting buffalo or going on visits to relatives or whatever. But it wasn't until about 1885 that some ranchers set up operations here. One north of here on the Cogrove Buttes, his name was Cogrove, and one right outside of Mott. His name was Osborne Chase. He was 6'5", a great big guy, a real tough guy, and he started a ranch outside of town here, and ran herds of sheep and cattle. And there was a guy in Dickinson named Edson Dayton, who was a minister from out east who came out here for his health, who ran flocks of 10, 15,000 head of sheep back and forth through here. So those were the earliest ones, but the town itself didn't start till 1905, when a promoter decided that this would be a good spot, located on the river and far enough from the main line of the Northern Pacific that ran from Dickinson to Bismarck. But this would be a good enough spot that there would be a possibility of success here. His name was William Brown, and the street out in front of us is still called Brown Avenue.
So instead of Main Street, we have Brown Avenue for your main business road. That's interesting. You know, let's back up a little bit. You had mentioned Osborne Chase. Now, I read a little bit about him. I think the story that you had written. He was bit by a rattlesnake.
Well, yeah, I mean, Osborne Chase, as I say, he was 6'5", 6'6". His brothers were all that tall too, and nobody messed with them. They were great, good guys, good neighbors and good friends to have around, but you didn't mess with them. And when a rattlesnake bit Osborne one day, he just whipped out his knife, cut off 2 of his toes, and pulled his boots back on, and went back to work.
Oh, for the rattlesnake or the frostbite? Or that was
for the rattlesnake.
For the rattlesnake. So his foot started swelling.
Well, I guess he was barefoot around a campfire or something, so he didn't have his boots on at the time, which is why they got him. But he just he took immediate action, and that was it.
Oh my goodness, what a story. So you get bit by a snake, you cut your toes off so the venom doesn't poison you, and you live to tell about it. That's the kind of people that are here in Mott, North Dakota. So tell us a little bit more then. The railroad came through, and what happened?
Well, the railroad was a little late. I mean, the town got started in 1905 and went along for about 5 years before the railroad showed up. And in fact, it was kind of interesting. 2 railroads showed up, the Milwaukee Road and the NP. And Mott was then, and for many, many years, was one of the few towns in North Dakota that had 2 railroads servicing it. Towns like Dickinson only had 1, and Bismarck only had 1, Jamestown only had 1. But Mott had 2, and so that was a big boost. That was in 1910, and they both arrived within a week of each other, and had a big celebration when they were here. Even hired a guy who had a hot air balloon to come. So he had a hot air balloon, and he took off down by the river and came floating over town, and suddenly his balloon began to lose air. No, it began to run into a house nearby. So he had a parachute. He jumped out, but it was only about 50 feet from the ground, so the parachute didn't open, and broke his feet and his legs, and they had to cart him off to the hospital. So that didn't go very well.
Oh my goodness! Wow. All right. So then, you know, there's a few other people. The Colgroves, they were from Australia. What do you think brought Australians to the area?
It's still one of the great mysteries. But one of the early hunters and trappers in North Dakota, a famous guy whose name I now escapes me, was also Australian. So I don't know what was pulling them over here at that time, but they ended up working on the railroad, building the bridge across the Missouri at Bismarck, and then were buffalo hunters back and forth across western Dakota for some years until they settled on the Cogrove Buttes, which is halfway between here and Richardson, and still bear their name today.
Oh, that's interesting.
We're down to the last Cogrove, though. Bruce, he's in the nursing home here. Mind is still sharp as heck, but his body's beginning to be a little bit frail.
Well, that's interesting. That's interesting, especially when you can follow the founders, the families that are still around here. That's really interesting. So what are some other stories? I understand that, there were, you guys had some, what was it? Some shots, dynamite was stolen one time right here in Mott.
It's one of the great stories. They were friends of mine who discovered a case of dynamite that a seismograph crew had left behind and made off with it, and then they spent much of the spring and summer exploding it around town. So there'd be these great, tremendous roars, and they weren't doing much damage but they were just doing it for the entertainment value. And finally, they set one off between the hotel and the bank, and the sheriff and the town policeman thought the bank vault might be blowing, and they came out with their guns drawn and started shooting at these 3 high school guys racing away. Who they jumped in the cannonball and swam to the other side and made their escape. But the sheriff, his name was Earl Kramer. He was a classic kind of sheriff. He was a great, good guy, and he looked like a cowboy, and he looked like he should have been sheriff, and he was. But he thought he recognized one of the guys, so he drove over to Burt, where there was a fellow named Willie Bochnick lived. And he knocked on the Bochnick door, and he said, "Mrs. Bochnick, is Willie at home?" And she said, "Well, yes, but he's in bed." He said, "Could I feel his clothes?" Well, she thought it was an odd request, but she let him, and they were, of course, sopping wet. So he caught one of them, and Willie did a little penalty for that. But that was the summer of the dynamite, as they say.
Oh, what year would have that been?
I was put at about 1963, 64.
Interesting. And nowadays, someone would be in jail for something like that.
Oh, my God, yeah. Then it was just a prank, but, I said there was very little damage, except I think the penny store garbage cans were among the casualties, but other than that.
Oh, interesting. All right, and then also there was a Charles Muchalkanaus. He was a Russian sheepman.
Yeah, he was another one of those first few guys who showed up in the mid-1880s. He came down, I think, from New Salem, and there's still families by that name around, although some of them gave up because it's such a tongue-twisting long name and changed it to Mitchell. In fact, if you go out to the cemetery here, there's the Muchalkanaus graves are right next to the Mitchell graves, and they're the same family, but decided to come with an easier name. They settled halfway between here and Regent on a spot where there's still a crossing, and it was the Muchalkanaus Ranch, big sheep herders, cattlemen, again, from those very earliest days.
Interesting. Well, Kevin, I tell you what, this has been an interesting summary. I mean, there's so much more to go through, and there are some books about Mott, and we encourage people to go ahead and pick those up to find the history. We've simply run out of time right now, but I do want to thank you for sharing that history with us today.
You're welcome. It's always fun.
Awesome. So we're at Bottoms Up in Mott, North Dakota. Back in a little bit, right after this, on Ladies of Another View on Back.
My Hometown of Mott is sponsored in part by Cardinal Insurance, Economy Drug of Mott, Pheasant Cafe and Lounge,
flag flies, Courgette wants the home run ball to JT Stokes. Looking deep, he's got Harvey. Courgette wants his second touchdown pass, give it to him. Look at end zone, did he come down with it?
Now you can have the personalized forecast at your fingertips when you need it. Beck's exclusive Weather Insight is information tailored to you. Radar, weather alerts, forecasts, and videos. Download the free Weather on Beck News app. Search your app store now.
Hey y'all, it's Trent on the loose. Travel the country with Trent on the loose, and we'll find those interesting human interest stories behind the people that bring us the efficient food supply. Trent on the loose.
My Hometown of Mott is sponsored in part by Prairie Creations Photography and Taxidermy, Scorpions Bar and Grill, South 40 Beef.
Hi all, John here from South 40 Beef USDA processing plant in Mott, North Dakota. We process our own beef and beef from local ranchers too. We want all Dakotans to eat local North Dakota beef. It's the best in the world. Stop buying from big box stores that could be importing foreign beef. Dakotans want local American beef Save our North Dakota ranchers. Go to our website, www.south40beef.com, to learn more and start enjoying North Dakota beef.
My Hometown of Mott is sponsored in part by Hettinger Sioux County Abstractors Incorporated, Owing Grocery LLC, Celebrations by Design,
For women who give their all for others every day, it's easy for self-care to get lost in the shuffle. Regular breast cancer screenings save lives. Take care of your loved ones by taking care of your health. Talk to your healthcare provider about a breast cancer screening today.
My Hometown of Mott is sponsored in part by C-Store Coffee Social Club, Mott Equity Exchange, Mott Motel,
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. We are coming at you from the bottoms up right here in Mott, North Dakota. I am joined by Troy Mossberger, and you just so happen to be the mayor.
Yes.
Troy, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
You know, this is such an interesting area of the state. I mean, you know, we've heard earlier from historians about how it all got started, but let's talk a little bit about Mott now. Like, Mott is known as the pheasant capital of the world. Tell us about that.
Yes, we are. We have great pheasant hunting. In the last 3-4 years, it has declined because the CRP has been taken out of production and farmers have been farming it. But we still see an influx of people come hunting season. About the first month and a half, our town grows quite a bit.
Well, and didn't the pheasants, wasn't there like a harsh winter about 3, 4, 5 years ago that really decimated the pheasant population?
Yes, there is. The pheasants right now are spotty, but they're slowly coming back. And the slower they come back, the faster they come back, the more hunters we get.
Sure. So, and I know because North Dakota, of course, is very rural. What makes Mott such a hot spot for pheasants in particular? Like, we're south of Mandan, and we have lots of land, CRP, et cetera, but we don't have the pheasants that you have just 100 miles west.
It's the CRP and the farmers. Farmers take care of the pheasants. They feed them, make sure they got food to eat over the winter. They plant food plots. In return, they get the return hunters. You know, most of them got the same hunters that come year after year. And some hunters have been coming here for 30 years.
Right, and not just local, but they come from all across
over the place,
the country and the world too,
yes.
Right?
Yeah. We had the professional golfer here, Jack Nicklaus, was here golfing. I mean, pheasant hunting.
Pheasant hunting.
And golf. He did some golfing too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, and so I just briefly, quickly, tell our viewers who have never hunted a pheasant what the joy is for hunting pheasants.
What the joy is?
Yeah.
The kill. I mean, I don't hunt.
Well, okay, and so it's just the but the pheasant
Well, you get
breast.
out. I mean, it's coming up with your group of people. You know, with your friends. It's all about friends. I mean, they all come in groups of friends. They have friends out here. You make friends, and they last forever. Friendships last forever out here.
And usually there's a pheasant feed afterwards. Like, everyone kind of like has their own special recipe for pheasant breasts and the different sauces.
The groups have their feeds at their places they live.
Sure.
You know, you just drive around and see a group of people and you just stop and visit with them.
Interesting.
More likely you get some pheasant to eat.
Right. And so tell us a little bit more about Mott. Besides the pheasants, why should people come here?
We have a nice, clean community. We have things to offer. We have a clinic. We have a drugstore. We got a school with a new addition bought 4 years ago. You know, it's clean, it's quiet. You know,
And it's kind of a ranching community, isn't it?
it's a farming community.
Farming more
Yes.
than ranching, right?
Farming, yeah.
And now you also got this new South 40 beef in here in town.
Yes, that's a big asset to our community and the county.
Right. I understand that there's actually, I mean, if people are looking for jobs, Mott is actually a pretty good place to start looking.
We have jobs. I mean, we have a nursing home, a care center looking for help. South Florida's looking for help. The schools, you know, they're looking for help. You know, their jobs are here. Problem is finding a place to live.
Right. Well, hopefully we can fix that. And I
Yeah.
guess there's got to be something we can do for that.
Yeah.
All right. So As far as the community goes, do you guys have some community events that people get involved with?
Yes, we do. We got a Mott Day in June, which last year we had probably roughly 400 to 500 people here attending. Then we had a lighting of the Christmas tree, first time we've done that, and there's probably 300 to 400 people show up for that. We had a meal for them, and we lit the tree, and that's what we did. It was fun.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. All right, and you guys also have a volunteer fire department, or what happens if something goes wrong in Mott?
We have a volunteer fire department with 28 volunteer firemen, and we have a volunteer ambulance service with 16 personnel in ambulance service.
Interesting. So anything else you want to share about Mott, North Dakota?
Come on here. We'd love to have you.
All right, you guys have I guess it's not Main Street, it's called Brown Avenue,
Yep.
but you have several restaurants and bars, boutiques, just all kinds of places to shop. I mean, granted, it's a small community, but it's a destination. You can come for the weekend and stay for a lifetime.
Well, yeah, what we're seeing is we're getting younger people to come back and open up businesses. Like the boutique and the bottoms up here. We like to attract the younger crowd.
Sure.
With kids.
Yes. All right. Okay, well, I want to thank you for being on today. We
you.
appreciate it. And we'll be right back after this with Ladies of Another View on back. I'm visiting with Garrison Reisner right here in Bottoms Up. You just so happen to own Bottoms Up.
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
What made you choose Mott?
You know, I grew up just about 30 minutes from here and knew the area, knew the people that owned this building, the business prior to me. And it was a great community getting involved. I turned 21 in here, and the people were always great to work with and be around. And, you know, it's just a really great community. It's really community oriented. And so when the opportunity presented, I couldn't pass it up.
Right, and you have quite the steaks that you serve here. Tell us a little bit about your grill.
Yeah, we're super proud of it. We're proud to serve South 40 beef, local beef. All of our beef, the burgers, the steaks, all comes from them. Never frozen, it's all fresh, usually within a day or two of being cut off the cow. And it's something we serve till 10 o'clock at night. So, when you're out in the field and you're working and it's 9 o'clock and you're tired and you don't feel like going home and cooking, we got the door open and we always got you covered there.
And that's a big deal for farmers and ranchers because they don't come in. I mean, they work with the sun. If the sun goes down at 10:30, they still want supper. They still got to eat.
For sure.
So just real quickly too, you're also a pyrotechnic. Tell us quickly about that.
It started when I was a kid. Obviously loved fireworks my whole life, and it just kind of grew, and then just became a hobby. Did it more and more. Spent more money, and then started doing it. Somebody was like, hey, do you mind shooting some fireworks for us one time on 3rd of July or 4th of July or something? And so we expanded it more, and now we have one of the largest firework displays in North Dakota on New Year's Eve right here in Mott. And it's community sponsored, all local businesses all the way from New England to Elgin. Majority comes from Mott here, and the community comes together and to put that on, and it's a great time.
Wonderful. But you've also done some bigger shows for different communities. Tell us about that.
We shoot one on the 3rd of July in Kalispell, Montana, actually off Flathead Lake. And then we shoot the North Dakota Peace Gardens. We did that one. And we'll probably be doing the one on the 30th for Canada Days up there.
Oh, wonderful.
And we do 2 in Minnesota on the 3rd and 4th. I have a partner that does the one in Minnesota.
Great.
Yeah.
And so when you think about small communities, it's just nice to have the character, the people. It's just everything is different. Who thinks of a pyrotechnic coming from Mott, North Dakota, right?
Right.
Oh, that's so interesting. So why should people stay and come to Mott and eat in your restaurant?
Hospitality. We try to be very hospitable around here, and everybody's friendly, and you can't miss. There's great opportunity, great scenery, things to do, and if you're looking for a destination that's cost effective, you really can't miss.
Amen. All right. We'll be right back after this on Ladies of Another View on Back, coming from Mott.
My Hometown of Mott is sponsored in part by Bottoms Up, Farm Credit Services of Mandan, Commercial Bank of Mott.
Flag flies. Courgette wants the home run ball to JT Stokes. First drive. Courgette looking deep. He's got Harvey. second touchdown pass. Give it to him.
Look at end zone. Did he come down with it?
Hop in the rig and go down the road with me. We'll cover local and national stories that impact you. This is an opportunity to hear the other side, the progressive side. I think people lose sight of the fact that there's still work that happens after the session's over. Describe it to people if you like. There was an attack on NDSU, in my personal opinion. I'll use that word, you don't have to. Down the Road with Joel Heitkamp weekdays at 5:30 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
My Hometown of Mott is sponsored in part by Commercial Insurance Agency Incorporated, Fitterer Oil, Good Samaritan Society of Mott.
Hi all, John here from South 40 Beef USDA processing plant in Mott, North Dakota. We process our own beef and beef from local ranchers too. We want all Dakotans to eat local North Dakota beef. It's the best in the world. Stop buying from big box stores that could be importing foreign beef. Dakotans want local American beef. Save our North Dakota ranchers. Go to our website, www.south40beef.com, to learn more and start enjoying North Dakota beef.
My Hometown of Mott is sponsored in part by Evans & Jensen Funeral Homes, Apollonia Dental, Four Corners Car Wash.
At Farm Credit Services of Mandan, we understand the needs of both young and seasoned farmers. We also know those needs can change. That's why our Generate operating loans are designed with maximum flexibility in mind. With competitive rates, multi-year credit lines, and working capital structured to fit your needs, we're ready to grow with you, no matter how challenging the season. Generate new opportunities with us at Farm Credit Services of Mandan.
My Hometown of Mott is sponsored in part by the City of Mott, West River Health Services of Mott, XL Homes.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. I have the privilege of sitting here with John Roswick right here in Mott, North Dakota, South 40 Beef. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you.
You know, it's so great to have you here. I've known you now for a couple of years through Independent Beef Association of North Dakota.
Yes.
You have something pretty big going on right here in Mott. Tell us about it.
Sure. So really, my wife and I, we moved out to North Dakota roughly about 2 or 3 years ago. And, we're originally from the East Coast. I was living and working, in New York City.
Perfect lifestyle, and you wanted to come to North Dakota.
I had money. It was a perfect lifestyle. And I thought it'd be a good idea to get into the cattle industry. And now I have no money.
Yeah, but you got a beef plant.
Yes. And so, I came up with this, my wife and I, we came up with this idea that, hey, why don't we, start raising, Black Angus cattle? And we have all these networks and connections and family on the East Coast and on the West Coast. And we said to ourselves, well, why don't we, raise these Angus and then let's get them processed. And so we built a beef processing plant, here in Mott, North Dakota. And we've been open for roughly about 10 months right now.
Wonderful. So what made you choose Mott of all places?
I came out here, I've been coming out here roughly 20 years, for the past 20 years, pheasant hunting.
Pheasant hunting.
So I obsessed with pheasant hunting.
And it is the pheasant capital of the world, we should know.
That's right. Absolutely.
Right. Amen. And so then it's like, you went from, I'm going to raise cattle, now I'm going to be a beef packing facility.
Yes.
All right. So, but things are going better now. I mean, it was kind of a slow start. You've gotten some really big deals done. You're shipping pretty much throughout the United States.
Correct.
And now you have a new project going on with the high schools right here, or the,
Yes.
I shouldn't say high schools, but the schools in North
Schools.
Dakota. Tell us about that.
Sure. Well, just to back up, so originally we thought the business model was going to be processing, our beef, and I knew nothing about, cattle, up until about now, recently, and I quickly learned that, it's too hard to figure out when they're going to be finished. You need access to, the fat cattle, year round. So about quickly we realized that we need to partner, with local ranchers and work with them to get access to not just our beef, but also access to, fat cattle. And, North Dakota has some of the best beef, in the world, if not, in this country. And I feel like we need to do a better job as producers and cattle industry to get North Dakota beef on the map. Most people don't think of North Dakota as a beef producing state, but northern cattle are some of the best cattle we have.
Amen.
And so we've been fortunate enough to process roughly about 150 head, per month right now. We do custom processing for ranchers, meaning you could bring a beef to us and we'll process that beef under USDA, and then you can resell it and do anything you want with it. And then we buy fat cattle on a weekly basis, and we work with area restaurants and also grocery stores. So
Wonderful.
We're in all the Cashwises, across the state of North Dakota, and we're probably in about 25 restaurants across North Dakota and South Dakota.
So if somebody wanted to contact you or want your steaks on their plates in their restaurant, how would they get a hold of you?
Really, our website, www.south40beef.com, and we deliver throughout the 2 states every single day.
Great.
Like today, we're doing a big loop, through Minot, Williston, Watford, etc. But to get back to your original question, we've been very fortunate enough to partner with iBand, and iBand contacted me about 4 weeks ago and said, hey, we'd love to get this farm to school, beef to school thing, started. And they've been doing beef to school, farm to school in South Dakota for the past couple of years, and it hasn't really gone anywhere in North Dakota. And so iBand approached me, like I said, 3 or 4 weeks ago. We donated some beef to some local schools to get it kind of, prime the pump. And this month, in the month of January, we have delivered over 16,000 pounds of ground beef to schools throughout, North Dakota. And these schools have been buying, government mystery meat for the past however long.
Decades.
It's all subsidized by the USDA. I'm sure half of it's imported from, foreign
Timbuktu.
countries. Exactly. And the state of North Dakota actually did a taste test between North Dakota beef that South 40 Beef provided and to the beef that they were getting from the USDA program. And the school in Fargo, quote unquote, said it actually smells like beef.
Wow.
Like it has a beef aroma, and then the percentage loss was a lot less with our beef here in North Dakota.
And so when you say percentage loss, sometimes there's moisture pumped into their ice shavings, or it could be more fat that actually just kind of fries away.
Generally what happens with, store purchase ground beef or the commodity program by the USDA is there's a lot of, water injected, into the process to create more weight. And there used to be this thing, you can Google it, this thing called pink slime, where they would put pink slime, into ground beef.
Ooh, that's not something I want my kids eating or
No.
myself for that matter.
No, I mean, I have so much passion about this. Like, every person in North Dakota should be eating, North Dakota beef. We have to change consumers' habits, right? Sure, is it a little more inconvenient to buy beef from you or buy beef from me or the producer down the road? Of course it is. right? I mean, right now we have consumers going to Walmart, Target, Costco, purchasing beef because it's more convenient. But what they're not doing is they're not supporting their local ranching and farming community. There's been more ranchers going out of business the past couple of years than staying in business.
Sure. Now, we've simply run out of time, John. I could go on forever with you. I just want to make a point, though. So when people say, hey, but it's so expensive over there, it's like, no, you get what you pay for. You're not paying for ice. You're not paying for moisture or pink slime. You are paying for beef, 100% beef. And you can get it right here at South 40 Beef in Mott, North Dakota. We'll be right back after these messages. Thanks again, John.
Thank you.
My Hometown of Mott is sponsored in part by C-Store Coffee Social Club, Mott Equity Exchange, Mott Motel.
Parents, listen up. Here's what your kids are being taught in public school, that there's no difference at all between boys and girls, that every white person is racist, and so is math. Supporting Black Lives Matter and social justice is more important than reading and writing, and thanks to Joe Biden, teachers' unions just got tens of billions of dollars in COVID cash to push all this in front of your kids.
That's right, and we want to make sure you not only stay informed, but have the tools to fight back. So watch the Dr. Duke Show weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Central Time on Beck TV.
We are rewriting Hollywood's script for our kids. I'm pop culture expert Tina Griffin, and as a former Hollywood actress, I'm giving you a behind-the-scenes look at how today's entertainment is eroding the foundational development of America's youth and how to safely navigate this pop culture chaos. Knowledge is power. Parents want solutions. It's time to get the power back in your hands and reclaim the right to decide who and what should influence your kids.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. Central Time on Beck TV. My Hometown of Mott is sponsored in part by Hettinger Sioux County Abstractors Incorporated, Owing Grocery LLC, Celebrations by Design.
Hi, I'm Kirsty Hintz. I'm an RN at Bismarck Burley Public Health, and I'm a local coordinator for the Women's Way program of North Dakota. Women's Way is a program that offers breast and cervical cancer screenings to eligible women in North Dakota. I love that I get to help women every day and really make it easy for them to get these screenings that really could save their lives. Getting screened is a great way for you to take care of yourself and be there for your family and those you love.
My Hometown of Mott is sponsored in part by Prairie Creations Photography and Taxidermy, Scorpions Bar and Grill, South 40 Beef.
Hi all, John here from South 40 Beef USDA processing plant in Mott, North Dakota. We process our own beef and beef from local ranchers too. We want all Dakotans to eat local North Dakota beef. It's the best in the world. Stop buying from big box stores that could be importing foreign beef. Dakotans want local American beef. Save our North Dakota ranchers. Go to our website, www.south40beef.com, to learn more and start enjoying North Dakota beef.
My Hometown of Mott is sponsored in part by Cardinal Insurance, Economy Drug of Mott, Pheasant Cafe and Lounge,
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. I have the privilege and honor of sitting with Gary Greff. Welcome to the show, Gary.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm so glad you made it. First of all, we're sitting at Bottoms Up right here in Mott, North Dakota, home of the best steaks that you can imagine. But let's get right to it. Gary, you are a sculptor of the Enchanted Highway.
Yes, I am. I designed and built the Enchanted Highway, which is 7 of the world's largest scrap metal sculptures.
And so what made you get started doing that? What gave you the inspiration?
Well, I was in education before that, and then I came back home and I saw that a small town where I was born and raised, a region, was dying. And I thought, how can I help keep a small town alive? And at the same time I came home was the same time they paved the road from interstate to region. And I thought, now how do I bring people down this 30-mile stretch of road? Long and short of it, I didn't know what to do. And of course, everybody wants a big factory. Well, the big factory isn't going to come into a town of 100 people. Now I have a paved road, what do I do? And I thought of a million things. And then a local farmer out of town made a small man holding a bale up out of metal. And then it dawned on me, that's what the ranchers and farmers of the Midwest are good at. They're good at welding. They had to know how to weld to succeed. But I thought, well, nobody's going to drive for normal sculptures, but they might drive for the world's largest. And that's how it all started. Never laid a bead of weld in my life, never in an art class, just said, let's go for it.
Wow. And so where did you come up with your idea? So what was your first one, first of all?
First one was the world's largest tin family. And basically the ideas are something that fits southwestern North Dakota. Okay, it has to sort of fit North Dakota or the Midwest. Okay, the long and short of it, I didn't figure an elephant would ever fit the Midwest. But pheasants and deer is what makes the Midwest part of makes us, that's what we have out here.
Right, right. And so I know, so Regent is how many miles from Mott?
Regent's about 15 miles from Mott.
And so when you come to Mott, because the show, this is the Mott show, Regent is kind of like a sister city right beside us, but you go down the Enchanted Highway. What's the highway number?
There is no highway number. It's called the Enchanted Highway.
Interesting.
It's labeled the Enchanted Highway, and when you come down the road, you come on over to Mott. Mott has worked with Regent in consolidating with the school. Mott has worked with me completely. So again, we want to make a Midwest or Western tour of in Western North Dakota. So become a destination.
Right. So this whole area, there's so many historical features to this area, but come down the Enchanted Highway to go ahead and get to all these little hidden gems, right?
Right.
Right. And so then you also were, like I had read this, you were over in Germany regarding some sculptures. Tell us about that.
They called me over to Germany asking if I would do a sculpture for Kaiserslautern, Germany. Okay, long and short of it, they flew me over and so forth. And I basically designed, they wanted something with basically soccer. Okay, so they're one of the soccer capitals, so they had the mascot and so forth. I designed this sculpture for them, but the long and short of it, I also told them that basically if I'm gonna design a sculpture for you, because it takes me roughly about 6 years to do a sculpture. So I said, if I'm gonna give 6 years, quit 6 years of working on my project, you're going to have to pay me enough to do, so I can hire somebody to continue working on my project while I sculpt for you. Well, that sort of eliminated that sculpture.
Okay, all right. And so how many sculptures again are on the highway?
Right now there are 7 sculptures. I'm working on sculpture number 8, which is the Knight and Dragon, which is located up by the hotel, the Enchanted Castle.
Okay, so tell us about the Enchanted Castle.
The Enchanted Castle, again, is a hotel. I always figured that if Regent was going to be, or we're going to be a destination, we had to have a hotel. So long and short of it, I asked banks if they would fund me for a hotel. Long and short of it, they laughed at me saying, we're not going to build a hotel in a town of 100 people. I says, I don't blame them. Okay, long and short of it, eventually the school consolidated with Mott. At that point, the building came up for sale, and we were one of the bidders that got the final bid on it. And then at that point, I thought the hotel has to be designed something that tied in with the Enchanted Highway. Well, what ties in with the Enchanted Highway but a castle? Okay, I looked at it and I said, we can't have a Disneyland castle out in North Dakota, but you can have a medieval castle, and it would sort of fit into Western North Dakota. So we then took the school, designed it, changed the rooms into hotel rooms. Basically, we have 19 rooms, a tavern, and a steakhouse.
Wonderful. And so I understand that a lot of people will come from larger communities to come down to Scrapbook for a weekend or do, different activities or just kind of get away for a girls' trip or a guys' trip. Great food.
Right, we did. We just had the Scrapbookers there last weekend, and basically there was 15, 20 ladies, and they scrapbook from Thursday till Sunday. And you know, now we've got a fishing tournament coming in. We've got a dodgeball tournament. We do have a number of things that they can use the facilities because the gymnasium is still there. The school uses it for practices. So again, it's something that we hope benefits all of Western North Dakota.
Right. So then it's like it pays forward. It pays forward. Like when people come over to Mott, use the Cannonball Trail. You know, there's places to stay right here in Mott. But if Mott fills up, the overflow can certainly go over to Regent and stay in the hotel.
Right, and we go vice versa.
Amen.
It works both ways. Again, like I said, I appreciate Mott being here. I support him in every which way. And long and short of it, like I said, the Enchanted Highway is part of Western North Dakota. It's part of our area. And to me, it's part of Mott.
Amen. Amen. And so what is your favorite sculpture on the highway?
I don't have a favorite sculpture. The reason I don't have a favorite sculpture, each sculpture takes me about 6 years to complete. It's like raising a kid. After 6 years, I hate some parts of it. I love some parts of it. And finally, I'm ready to say, get out of the house, and I'm ready to go to the next sculpture. So I don't pick a favorite. It's just, they all have their own life. They all have their own, everything's different with each sculpture.
Amen. And so we got to wrap it up here, but do you have something in the back of your mind? How many figures do you have moving forward?
Well, my goal is to have 11 sculptures on the highway. My goal is also possibly to do metal art theme park. I've got a lot of goals, a lot of things I'd like to see happen. I do, again, want to see this become a Midwest or a whole courier that we travel, that tourists can travel through Region, through Mott, over to Lemon, over to Hettinger. I want to see this a Midwest courier.
Wonderful.
That we basically benefit every community here.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Gary. It's been a pleasure visiting with you today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Amen. Well, we will be right back after this on Ladies of Another View on Beck.
My Hometown of Mott is sponsored in part by the City of Mott, West River Health Services of Mott, XL Homes.
I'm Rick Becker.
And I'm Lori Hintz.
Welcome to No Apologies, your after-hours oasis of sanity.
Your retreat begins at 9 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
Now you can have the personalized forecast at your fingertips when you need it. Beck's exclusive Weather Insight is information tailored to you. Radar, weather alerts, forecasts, and videos. Download the free Weather on Beck News app. Search your app store now.
Hi, everybody. I'm Doug Billings, host of The Right Side with Doug Billings, where we take great joy every day in entering into your lives at key moments to make differences for the better. That's how we fulfill the meaning of life. You can see me on Beck TV and Beck.news. Cheers.
My Hometown of Mott is sponsored in part by Evans & Jensen Funeral Homes, Apollonia Dental, Four Corners Car Wash.
Invest in your future today with a home from XL Homes of Mandan. They do construction loans and carry your jobs from start to finish, including garages and basements. The staff at XL Homes will work with you to meet your needs, whether looking for your first home, relocating, or that perfect lake home. XL Homes has many models to choose from. Buy with confidence from a locally owned dealer serving the area for over 20 years. XL Homes on the Strip, Mandan. Call them at 663-8400.
My Hometown of Mott is sponsored in part by Commercial Insurance Agency Incorporated, Fitterer Oil, Good Samaritan Society of Mott.
Hi all, John here from South 40 Beef USDA Processing Plant in Mott, North Dakota. We process our own beef and beef from local ranchers too. We want all Dakotans to eat local North Dakota beef. It's the best in the world. Stop buying from big box stores that could be importing foreign beef. Dakotans want local American beef. Save our North Dakota ranchers. Go to our website, www.south40beef.com, to learn more and start enjoying North Dakota beef.
My Hometown of Mott is sponsored in part by Bottoms Up, Farm Credit Services of Mandan, Commercial Bank of Mott.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. I always save the best for last. I'm sitting with Charlotte Aldinger right here in Mott, North Dakota in the Bottoms Up Bar and Restaurant. Charlotte, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mary.
You know, it's so interesting. When I picked Mott as a place to talk about, your name came up right away because you're so energetic and you know a lot about the community. You grew up in Mott, right?
Yes.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your life. You grew up here, you left, and you came back. Tell us your story.
Absolutely. So I grew up here. My parents, grandparents live here. So then I went off to college to Bismarck, got married, had our first child, and then it was that moment where I have 3 brothers. My parents farm back in Mott. Could we, should we? Is it ever a possibility to move back to Mott, North Dakota? And as I was on maternity leave, I got the call, there's an opportunity down at the bank. Is it something you'd want to consider? And, you know, we thought about it. You know, Troy talked earlier that housing was a challenge and housing continues to be. So housing kind of stopped us from saying, hey, maybe we can't make this work. But everything worked out for a purpose and a reason, and we ended up moving here. My parents are here. I have 3 brothers that farm and ranch. So I have 4 young children, and my husband and I both have career opportunities in the community, as well as we're a part of something. We're a part of this community. We feel like what we do makes a difference here.
Oh, that's great. And you were actually, when you say you got a job here, not just any job, you're actually the bank president.
Yes. When I first came back here 10 years ago, I came as the CFO and the executive vice president, and here in the last year, I became the president of our locally owned bank that we have here in town.
And that's great. You know, a young female, it's just kind of, you know, breaking barriers. I love that. And you can do it right here in Mott, North Dakota. You know, you guys have so much going on. I find it such a friendly little community. There's boutiques, there's all kinds of things. But you guys have something called the Cannonball Trail. Tell us about that.
So I'm also a part of a group. It's called the Mott Visionary Committee, and our goal is really to enhance the lifestyle of both the community and the people that live here in Mott. And with the beautiful Cannonball River that flows through our community, there's so much to offer. There was a group of them that are a hiking group, some local ladies that would go to other smaller communities or different areas on destination trips, like where they would go and do a mile walk or a mile trail, and they said, well, we have one right here, let's make it happen. And so we found sponsors and local workforce to really develop a trail it's not paved. There's areas where it's paved and it connects up with our bike path, so you can bike with your children, go for a walk on the gravel, the grass, and it winds you right down by the river. It's a beautiful little trail.
And I would think that you could probably do some cross-country skiing in the winter months if you have snow.
Absolutely.
Right. Yes. And can you ski on the river? Does the river freeze over?
The river does freeze over, so you can see a lot of that. But there's a lot of activity and hustle bustle throughout the year with the river. I mean, there's fishing, there's lots of kayaking. You'll see all ages that are taking their kayaks through it through different times. You can see people fishing right in town here, where they throw a few poles in here and there as well. So.
Oh, that's interesting. Do they ever go tubing down that river? To me, that would be kind of a fun thing. Start at one end of town and go a mile or 2 down to the other end?
No, I haven't seen that since I've been here.
That might be something to start. Anyway, so there is a trail map along with it, so it's really interesting. And you guys have some historic cannonballs. Tell us about the Cannonball River, first of all. It's basically an earth formation, right?
Yes.
The cannonballs kind of come out of the side of the river?
So they used to be it's not as easy to find now, but it used to be where the cannonballs that were formed, people would go looking and searching for cannonballs. So we recreated what a cannonball would look like as mile markers along the trail, just because they're scarce and hard to find. But a cannonball is where it got its name, and that's where.
Sure. And for our viewers, I just want to mention what it is. It's basically a big sandstone, and they come naturally out of the earth here. And it happened during during the ice age. It pushed these stones, and they're sandstones, and they can be anything from a baseball size up to 2-3 feet across. So it's really interesting. But tell us what else we have to offer here in Mott.
Small town, small community. It's about community pride. It's about relationships. We have the same amenities, the same things that you can have in the larger communities. We have, with the beef processing plant, we have access to medical between our nursing center, our clinic. We have 3 hospitals within 60 miles away. So, as we age and as we bring in the young people that are bringing in families and having babies, we have access to medical. But it's an egg economy here, so our farmers and ranchers really drive everything that happens in this community. They shop at our local grocery store, they go to the local pharmacy. So it's been great.
And both of them sponsored the show, actually. The grocery store, it looked like it was all, you were ready for it to be gone, and they stepped up and said, hey, we're going to make this grocery store work.
Absolutely.
That is fantastic, and there are other investment opportunities right here in Mott. The motel is for sale, right?
Yes.
And it comes with a full living quarters, like a 3,000 square foot house, and it's turnkey. The hotel is like
41 beds.
Yeah.
So it's turnkey. There's an opportunity there, with us having hunting that time of year, and with the egg economy, there's different busy times a year when you need additional help, whether that's custom harvesting, those kinds of things. But there's a place and a need for a hotel in our community.
And you lost a motel, right? Wasn't there a fire a few years back?
Years and years ago, there was a fire, and that took what used to be our holiday house or our holiday, and so that we lost that, and that was in the center of the community on Main Street. So that's where we recently had our tree lighting, and we call it our holiday park to commemorate that. But we try to do community activities and things to surround and bring back some of those old memories too.
And I want to say, you guys actually turned the charred grounds into a park, right? Like the community built this park?
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. There's also a few other things going on. Isn't there a pedal tractor museum?
We have a couple museums. We have a pedal tractor museum. We have a museum that has a lot of different areas. If it's a schoolhouse, a barbershop, they kind of cover a lot of different ground there, but those are open to the public. And we have a couple celebrations throughout the summer where those open up, and we really get people in there to spend some time and learn the history of what we have to offer here.
And there's actually some investment opportunities right here on Main Street too, right?
Yes, we've had some change of ownership. This bar that we're sitting in is a new ownership, but we have some open lots on Main Street. Just different opportunities for you to be an entrepreneur, bring your business, bring your family here, become a part of something and make a difference in our community with us.
Great. Charlotte, I want to thank you for joining us today and telling us about Mott and what Mott has to offer. It's been great.
Thank you, Mary.
Is there anything you want to leave our viewers with? One last word.
That's tough. I just think that being in a small town, there's so much to offer. The relationships, the opportunity, the community pride. Come visit, come be a part of us.
Amen. So come for the weekend, stay for a lifetime right here in Mott, North Dakota. We'll see you next time in another location on Ladies of Another View on Back, coming from my hometown.